What happens to the things you carry when life gets heavy enough to tip you over? We spend a lot of time polishing the outside of our jars, our reputations, our smiles, our professional outlook. But when the pressure hits, when certain challenges and circumstances occur, events in our lives, or we get to a bump in our life, whatever is actually inside is what spills out, making it essential to recognize what we are carrying instead of just focusing on the outside, which is why we must examine our contents, not just the container. I want us to look at the difference between carrying for survival and carrying for a shift. Welcome to Embrace and Become, interior conversations for women becoming. I'm Clara, and in this conversation, we begin from the inside. I'm so excited to connect with you all in this space again. If this is your first time connecting, you're welcome. And if you've been here before, welcome back. You know, I was reflecting on how much energy we spend making sure the outside of our lives look polished, when really the most important things are the ones no one else can see. Today's conversation directs our focus on why what's inside your jar matters more than how you're carrying it. So in the last episode, we looked at our origin point, the reality that our story doesn't start where we think it does, and that the foundation of our life, our assignments, our callings, our purpose is really the foundation that God has already established. And also the fact that to be able to embrace and to really become what we've been called to be in this life, really. In that in every season of our life, we're evolving into a different dimension, into a different level, and really a different chapter. And so we are better positioned or better suited to really embrace the authenticity of our journey. Today we're moving from the where to the what. We did touch base on how we've been showing up, and at times it doesn't even feel like we're showing up in the best possible way. And in actual fact, when you're showing up, you don't even realize that you've been repositioned to a place where you're about to leap, where you're about to find yourself perhaps somewhere you thought you'd never see yourself. So today, I really just want us to really come from a place that we know where we stand now. We know where we're standing, and we have to really look at what we are carrying. It matters much. It matters much for decisions that we make, for, ventures that we want to embark on. We need to move into a place where we can really just have an internal audit of the jars that we hold and what is actually pouring out of our lives. I think the best way to look at this is to really just see inside ourselves, just really think about what our inner makeup is, because we often carry survival patterns. We often carry, in this instance, let me use survival patterns, but just patterns in general, or habits, or, inside of us, things that we've become accustomed to, things that we've become used to. For instance, like the need to be right. If we find ourselves in certain settings, the need to not get things wrong, the need to not make mistakes, the need to be perfect for most. Or maybe it might be that there's a pattern of just having the fear of being seen, a fear of being heard, even a fear of being known, or a fear of stepping into the unknown. And this subconsciously influences our conversations and our daily decisions that we have to make. So our life's work is only as pure as our internal state. And this is why I believe it's really imperative for us to have a moment again to really just look inside ourselves, and that the content in which we're carrying, what is it that I'm carrying that will have pretty much an adverse effect in what I'm pouring out. So we really must stop focusing on the container that is us, the external, the going ahead of our thoughts and our minds and our intellect at times, and just be a bit more discerning and really look at the content of ourselves, have that moment of introspection, have that moment of, an inner audit, the external. And even so with the woman with the alabaster box, she broke her jar, not coming away from the theology of what it really represented, of course, just symbolically breaking that jar, and it's symbolizing the shift from survival to true purpose, from a closed jar, from a jar that you see on the outside and not really knowing what's on the inside, to what is really inside pouring out and it making a difference. In Proverbs 4 verse 23, it says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Now, it sounds like an easy thing to do, but most time you can tell from the pattern of the exterior if your heart's actually guarded. And sometimes it's not easy to keep your heart guarded. The Gospel of Luke chapter 6 verse 45 says, a good man brings good things out of the good stored up in his heart, for the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. And so sometimes we're pouring out from a place, again, that is not always met consistently, is not always tapped into enough. Sometimes as women, you would run away from that place to really just be able to acknowledge and confront what's inside of you, what you're feeling, how you're feeling, why you're feeling it, who's made you feel that way, what's gotten you to feel that way, what in your journey has brought you to feel that way. You can just imagine somebody that's a fixer. They're there, they're fixing others, they're helping others. You can't fix people. They're helping others. But if her inner jar is filled with fear of not being enough, her inner jar is filled with, worry and doubt. It could even be you. You're full of fear that you're not good enough. You're full of fear that you can't make it. You're full of fear that you're going to mess up again, or you're full of fear that you're going to make a mistake. Your actions can lead to exhaustion, because for every problem there's supposed to be a resolution and a forward movement. Or maybe just think of yourself as a woman, whose reaction to conflict is defensiveness, or feeling discouraged, or feeling disqualified, or feeling too much, or feeling difficult. And these are just labels that women place on themselves. And it becomes normal, it becomes familiar to say that this is the best way to show. But really, it's just showing what's truly at the bottom of her jar, of her inner jar. It's really showing what's in the inside of her. I want you to take one or the other and see where you best fit in. Do you fit in the well jar? That is, you as a woman who, you come as a vessel, you're designed in a way that, you show up, like I said, daily. There's a repetitive need that you need to attend to. You're showing up as a jar of necessity. It's necessary for me to look strong. It's necessary for me to look all put together. It's necessary for me to look like I've got this thing figured out. Or maybe you're the alabaster jar. You're a woman coming as a vessel designed for a singular moment. It was a jar of value. Do you see yourself as a jar, a vessel of value? And if we're to connect this, most of us are living out of the first jar. We're carrying patterns of not enough or too much. And we think we're protecting these things, but they are actually flavoring everything we pour out into our relationships, into our work, into our God-given dreams. And if you really think about where some of these rooted perspectives come from, it's from, again, experiences or encounters you've had with people in certain scenarios, in certain seasons of your life that were really testing. It really tested the core of you, But I believe that we have to come to a place to embrace the opportunity that we have, to undo a perspective that can really perhaps be a false perspective because of what you may have been going on or going through in those seasons. Saying I'm defined by what I've been through. that's the woman with the survival water. And even in that moment, that's survival water with the water she was trying to take, because we're not talking about the living water itself, and you have to shift that perspective and begin to embrace a more true, a more absolute perspective, which is, I am actually defined by what I am willing to pour out. Just like the woman at the well, both of them, the woman at the well, the woman with the alabaster box, had to break something. And I believe that there's something we need to break out of. We need to break forth out of. And it starts from the inside. You have to have that conversation. You have to have that moment to say, in actual fact, it's time for me to release something that may have been holding me for far too long. Whether it's you leaving the water jar, or whether it's you breaking open the jar, you need to break out of something. You need to leave some things behind and just become refreshed and just become reperfumed. Both women had to release the jar to access the shift, and you can feel that shift. You can feel the true you. You can feel inside of you. Not only feel, you know it. You would have come at some point in your life to know and taste and feel the essence of who you are, even if it's a desire to be something better than you were, or coming from somewhere better, coming to somewhere better than where you've come from. So many of you are holding on to survival. Some of you are holding on to status. But both of these women found that what was inside actually mattered more than the vessel itself. And you need to come to that realization as well. We need to come to that realization that what's inside of us, and we therefore can pay more attention to the inner part of us, to that side, that to be able to discern better, to be able to make better decisions, to make better choices, to take better risks, because really and truly your output, what's pouring out of you, your legacy, is not determined by your past. It's not determined by the wrong route you took. It's not determined by the wrong perception of somebody else, but really by your refusal to keep carrying those old ingredients. And when you stop filling your jar with others' opinions, when you stop filling your jars with wrong opinions, even of yourself, I really love and believe in introspection. It's a very crucial part of our existence. You must be able to look inside of yourself. It's not always about apportioning blame. It's not always about, it can be so at times, but always, if you can look on the inside and see, well, what can I do? You are only in control of what you are in control of. And it's not the easiest thing. Many of you would have really understood in a particular time of your life that sometimes you really would just want something to be or turn out the way that it is, and down the line you came to find in actual facts it couldn't, and for most part God wouldn't allow it. And so it's just really allowing God to affirm your true value. It's really allowing God to affirm you with His actual fact and truth about whom He's called you to be. It's really for you to be repositioned, even in the way that you think about yourself and you look at yourself. You're better than what the world has tried to tell you, or you're better than what people's thoughts and perspectives, like I said, try to frame you into. You move from trying to keep it all in to being free to pour it all out, because your supply comes from God. Your supply comes from a healthy place. Your supply comes from a safe place. Your supply comes from a safe place. At this point, you know that someone always sends in a question, a concern, something that they would like an insight into. And this question that came today is asking, how do I change what's inside when I've been carrying these patterns for years? How do I change what's inside when I've been carrying these patterns for years? Some of you may be identifying in this moment, and please do take a moment to identify the patterns that have taken root in your life. you have to get to a place where you can take responsibility to identify patterns, even if you don't understand why they're there, how they've become, but you can identify. I usually say you cannot conquer what you don't confront, and you cannot confront what you don't acknowledge. And so to acknowledge is a really good starting point. And to that question, I would say it really just starts with recognizing your reactions. Because sometimes you can tell a lot by how you react to certain things, to certain seasons, certain events, certain opinions, certain challenges. And you really come to see that if you can recognize your reaction is literally 50%, half of the transformation process, of the becoming process. Because you're halfway when you know your starting ground. There's more understanding. You're coming from a clear place. You need to allow yourself to receive and embrace grace. You need to embrace grace. Don't start from a place where you're condemning yourself. Don't start from a place where you're blaming yourself. Don't start from a place where you're discouraging yourself, you're doubting yourself. That wouldn't help. You can only change what's inside when you believe you can actually change, and there's a change to reach, and it's a good change. And this is life. You learn through lessons. You hear many successful entrepreneurs, many successful business people telling you that in actual fact they learned the most when they failed. It's not a venture into failing. It's definitely something that shouldn't stop you from believing that you can actually be who you're supposed to be. You can produce. You can be fruitful in your ventures. You can really just show up. And it's okay. And no one should make you think otherwise. No one should make you think otherwise. You can change overnight. That shift, when it comes, it comes. So don't start from the place of it's impossible. You really need to see it being a possible thing. And that is your starting point. That's your starting point. Something I'll encourage all of us to do from the back of that question really is just note down when you feel frustrated or you're feeling a bit overwhelmed with certain things that are going on in your life. And, perhaps it might even be a good space to reflect perhaps on a previous time or previous season or event in your life that you were really frustrated and you felt really overwhelmed, and just ask, what just spilled out of me? What spilled out of me then? Or if it's for now, what spilled out of me now? Was it peace or was it the old survival model of discomfort or sorrow? You can add your own thing there, and then I want you to really just look at the opportunity that you have to really swap over, to let there be some kind of an exchange, just try and identify one ingredient, one thing inside of yourself. You are the vessel. What's inside of you in your internal jar? Is it the need to be approved? Do you feel like you need someone to validate you? Do you need someone to approve you? Do you need someone to always have to affirm you before you can even come to the healthy space of being confident of some of the things that you choose to do or choose to say? And then ask God to replace it with an established truth. Sit down and really note down established truths, because then that exchange, you're not breaking out of a negative space or a wrong perspective or a wrong mindset for another negative space or another wrong mindset. You want to evolve. You want to become stronger. So you leave that space to enter into a better space, a better mindset. And really just see it as breaking out of a form, out of a reputation, out of a label, so that your true self can emerge. I'm sure you can agree with me that you owe yourself that much. So as we're rounding off for today, you don't have to apologize for what's in your jar. You don't have to polish the jar. You just have to really be honest about what's inside. That's the essence of today's episode. You just have to be willing to set it down. You're not a vessel of unnecessary or an unfruitful way. You're becoming a container of His glory. You're becoming a container of healthy thinking. You're becoming a container of strong confidence. You're becoming a container of empowerment, beauty, peace, love, joy, fruitfulness, strength. If anything has really resonated with you, then I want you to take time to sit in that space, sit down with it, think about it. It's yours, and really just think about it, because you are becoming. We all have jars that need emptying. We've had some of our jars filled today from this episode, and if there is a woman in your life that you know, it could be a friend, it could be a sister, it could be an aunt, it could be your mom, your grandma, your cousins, your niece, your godchildren, that you know is carrying a heavy weight quietly, whoever that woman might be, I encourage you to share this episode with her. Let her know that she doesn't have to carry it all alone. So before we go, please hit the follow and subscribe button right here in this app or your favorite podcast listening app to stay part of this journey. Your support really does help other women find this space too. So thank you so much for showing up today. Thank you so much for showing up for yourself. You can also follow us on our Instagram page on Embrace and Become, or on our YouTube channel, same Embrace and Become handle. And it's also the best way for you to get some notifications and updates and more content and resources on our pages. Remember, you're not a vessel of survival. You are becoming a container of His glory. Until next time, embrace and become.